Okay, so our next speaker has arrived. Mr. Finhai Munzara is defined as an Afro-optimist as he believes in the future of Africa. He has expertise in strategy, capital raising, as well as structuring and execution of debt, equity, and mergers and acquisitions. He's currently the CFO of Africa Data Centers, here to present on a case study on banking innovation. Please welcome Mr. Finhai Munzara.
Cause when I see you, I feel still the keys to your heart again. And I believe, I'm falling for you like a thief. Cause when I see you, I feel.
Thank you, Tando. Thank you very much. Good still morning, I suppose, to everybody. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. There we go. So I think today I'll really just be talking mostly about what we're seeing. So as highlighted, my name is Finhai Munzara. I am CFO for Africa Data Centers. So while we're really on the digital infrastructure side of what you all do. So what I'll be speaking about today, and I'm not sure if this is moving. There we go. So I'm going to be speaking today really around what we're seeing around the developments around financial services institutions, fintechs as well, and how effectively we're seeing how the cloud is effectively enabling a lot of the fintechs and the developments around the fintechs, as well as what we're seeing around the transition from traditional financial services firms who are starting to move some of their servers off-premise, splitting that into moving some of that into the cloud, and some of the workloads into actual physical data centers, so actually moving their servers. And this is really what the developments that we're seeing right now. So I think really just a lot of this you would be aware of, which is really, I think the cloud right now is really embracing the cloud by financial institutions and fintechs is really trying to stay ahead of the competition. I think the cloud provides a lot of benefits, particularly around being agile, having a lot of flexibility in terms of developments, and being able to innovate and develop in a more kind of customer-centric way, which of course enables developers, enables financial services institutions, launch new products, be able to tweak some of their projects, and in a much more quicker, rapid deployment in terms of getting to the market. And beyond just the technology that we're seeing around the movement to cloud, what we're seeing, I think, provides a simplified technology environment, of course. Outside of that, it enables financial institutions to use a little bit more design thinking and adopting a more customer-centric perspective when they're delivering some of their new products and services. These are some of the benefits that I think would be widely known around transitioning to the cloud. And really, it allows, of course, institutions to be able to iterate much quicker, change to customer behaviors, release things much quicker, and get to the market much faster. So I think these are really what we're seeing, and from the infrastructure perspective, is really seeing a lot of financial service institutions starting to embrace the cloud, starting to embrace this, and we're seeing it in terms of an uptick effectively of demand in terms of cloud services and capacity to host cloud providers within our data centers. So this is what we're starting to see, and I think these are the benefits really of having a data center for the cloud providers that is independent. Of course, is really because as a data center provider, we effectively provide the back end of all of that, which effectively most of the benefits being things like power, connectivity, uptime, which I'll talk about in a moment. One thing that I will warn in terms of the trends that we're seeing, there seems to be a little bit of a hesitation, particularly the traditional financial services firms, in terms of moving everything to the cloud. I think there's there's going to be a two-step process around how that transition is going to happen. I think some of the workloads, particularly those that are shared, enable staff to work from home, enable access from anywhere. All of that, I think a lot of the financial services firms are starting to get comfortable about moving that to the cloud. Some of the core systems, I think there's still a little bit of a hesitation, and we're seeing that being split between staying on-prem, and some institutions have still maintained their servers on-prem, and that's been split between on-prem and having disaster recovery sites in data centers, or actually moving the actual main server into data centers. So as Africa Data Centers, we have 3 data centers in South Africa, a couple in Johannesburg. We have a few of the financial services firms who've actually moved their main servers into our facilities. And that, I think, you'll see, the jury's still out whether do you move your main server, do you move your disaster recovery? But we're seeing that transitioning happening, and it's happening fast. And a lot of that is really around being able to build a financial services institution that's cloud-based, benefiting from all the agility, speed, cost effectiveness, work optimizations that the cloud provides, yet addressing some of the questions around transparency, data security, and trust. Because ultimately, if your main server is sitting somewhere else, you have to trust that operator to operate your data, to have uptime all the time. Despite all the load shedding, we still need to be up. You can't, your banking app can't go down because there was load shedding today. So I think that the sort of trust, the data security around that, and the transparency to be able to know that this is where my data is sitting, and this is how much I pay for it, and this is how much I pay for the hosting, that becomes more and more important, and we're seeing a lot of that come through. So I think bottom line around the cloud transition, I think this is really about changing how financial services operate and how do they also respond to the change. So being able to respond quickly to change is seeing some of the main drivers for operators to start moving towards the cloud. And I think I've spoken a little bit about the data center infrastructure that underpins that as well, but effectively, the data center really, and some of you would know this, I'm sure, but it's really where the cloud lives, right? So it's really just the home to the cloud. I like to specify that we don't actually host customer data, we just house customer data. So we effectively, you're a customer, you bring your servers, you put in your servers, we house them, we make sure there's physical security, there's power, there's cooling, there's 100% uptime, well, 99.968, I believe, is what we promise. Uptime on your servers. Operational staff, of course, to make sure that your servers, when they need to be, we offer remote hands when they need to be switched on or off, rebooted. We can do that for you on your behalf, and effectively, that's what we're promising. But what we're really seeing, and what's exciting about this space for us, is really how what all of you are doing around financial institutions and developing apps, data, new solutions, new services for your clients. We're really seeing that drive the demand for cloud services, and for us, that means effectively demand for where we actually house the servers. So we're seeing a lot more capacity being asked for, and a lot more stringent kind of SLAs around uptime and making sure that none of what you do actually goes down. I think other things that we're seeing around this, and I've spoken a little bit about this, and it's really about with the increased workloads and digital traffic associated with the hybrid working, we're definitely seeing a lot of demand coming from there. I think some of the other benefits that are not obvious at first is really, I think, by moving into facilities like data centers, what we're seeing a lot of financial services companies benefiting a lot from as well is really this ecosystem that we actually provide. Because you have a data center that have many customers in there, a lot of customers that you would want to connect to, you're able to actually interconnect with a lot of these a lot of these providers within the data center itself. So you actually don't have one. You obviously reduces your latency, which is key in a lot of financial services apps. But more importantly, you've got access. You can connect within the data center without having to use data effectively, without having to use fiber to actually connect. And I think this is a key benefit really that we're seeing around the developments of data centers, and why a lot of there's a lot of interest and a lot of buzz around actually providing and building up these ecosystems within our data centers. Also, of course, we operate as carrier neutral, so you effectively have access to whoever you want to connect through. So, we don't specify who you need to connect to. We have multiple connectivity providers, and you can choose whoever you want to connect to and optimize how you connect throughout the day. So you could use one provider in the evening and another one during the day. So I think this is really some of the benefits that we're starting to see around our data centers. Something else that's also very interesting and that is becoming top of mind, which is where I think I'll sort of leave, is really we're seeing a lot of benefits around sustainability and innovation. We spend a lot of time in terms of our design, the equipment put in our data center, the cooling we provide. We spend a lot of time trying to actually provide that at the most efficient as possible. So the cooling we optimize as much as possible. We use as much free cooling as we can so that we don't use that much water. We use as much renewables as we can. So we have, we say we don't have any dumb roof space. So all our roof space has solar panels on them because we need to be generating some renewables to help effectively counter some of the carbon footprint. I mean, we know, of course, global data centers, they probably consume about 1.5 to 2% of global power, so it's a lot. So we use quite a lot of power, but what we're seeing is that, because of that, there's a lot of focus on renewables, and I think the data center companies are starting to we're starting to get our customers who care about reaching decarbonization targets. A lot of financial services institutions here have communicated carbon neutral strategies by 2030, for example. We effectively are helping them effectively by moving their servers into locations like us that is very efficiently run in terms of power usage and also in terms of the mix of decarbonization and renewables. We find that we're actually starting to offset some of their carbon footprint, and we're seeing that as something that that our customers are starting to value much more, increasing this transition that we're seeing around into data centers. So I think that's really what I wanted to point out and highlight, talk about today. Open to any questions. Any plans to mine crypto on your farm? So we don't mine ourselves, but would be very happy to host crypto providers. So we wouldn't do the mining ourselves, but of course we one thing that's also key, Crispo, is you want to be in a secure location that has power all the time that we can provide. We look at that client segment as a growth area for us as well. Well, so do you mean physical security? Do you mean IT security? So, I mean, I'll talk about what we do provide, and going back to what I did say earlier, we house data, we don't host it. So the server, the data in the server, that belongs to you. The cybersecurity, which I think is what you're referring to, is not what we provide. In fact, we've got cybersecurity providers or some of our customers within our data center, and they provide cybersecurity to some of the other customers. So we don't compete with our customers. So we don't provide, as a data center operator, cybersecurity necessarily. What we do provide is physical security. So of course, we typically don't advertise where our data centers are located. We have, we have CCTV everywhere in these locations. We, of course, do not allow everybody into the locations. You have to be pre-booked, pre-signed in, pre-vetted, and you have to have a good reason to be entering the data centers. But the servers within the walls of our data centers actually belong to our customers. So So in that context, we do not provide the cybersecurity that's related to that. But we will promise you that no one who shouldn't be accessing your server is allowed to access your server. So that we provide. Good question, and it's related to, I think it's related to the other question. So we have not been hacked ourselves in terms of our actual, in terms of as ADC and our systems. So our systems have not been hacked. Some of our customers could have been hacked. So for example, you could have a public, I know Transnet was hacked last year, for example. I'm not saying they're one of our customers, but if that was one of our customers, they would have been hacked. But that's not our system, that's actually their system. And again, that's really because all we're doing is actually housing and powering and cooling their servers. We're not actually providing the cybersecurity, around that. We do have a sister company, Liquid Intelligence Technologies. They provide cybersecurity, but as mentioned, because we are carrier neutral, we let customers know that there is an option to go with a cybersecurity provider should they want one, but we do not compete with the other cybersecurity providers who are in our data centers. So we don't, so happy to introduce, but we do not encourage to go with one or the other because they're all our customers as far as we're concerned. Thank you. I think that it looks like that's it, Tato. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Very much, Mr. Munzara.